Hey, welcome back to another video. Thanks for joining. In today's video, we're gonna take a look at the newest version of Duik Angela. I thought because Duik Angela is coming out later this month officially, that it'd be a good time to kind of look at what's new, what they've updated, what they've changed, and just give my overall thoughts on the new version of Duik. There's a lot of new stuff there and some of it's quite intriguing, so we have a lot to cover. Let's get started. But before we do, I just want to do a quick reminder that enrollment for my course on character animation is currently still open until tomorrow, Friday, January 13th, and then we'll be closing enrollment. If you're interested in the course, I've left a link in the description where you can go check it out and learn more about it. Also, if you're not interested in the course, but you still want to support the channel and what we're trying to do here at Keyframe Academy, one thing you can do to support the channel is just go watch the last video, the video we made for the course. Just go watch it and then give it a like. That helps that video get in front of more people on YouTube, which means potentially it'll be put in front of somebody who is interested in taking that course, who the course is a fit for. So if you want to support the channel, that's one huge way that you can help me. I've also left a link to that video and it will pop up at the end of this video somewhere on the screen. So you can just click right to go watch it. It's only a minute and a half, so it's not going to take too much time, but those views and those likes really help get it worked up in the algorithm. All right, with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so upon first opening Duik, the biggest, most obvious change you'll notice is the UI has been completely reworked. This can be a controversial move as people get used to the way things are. I know I certainly was used to the way things were in Duik Basel, and this new version of Duik will definitely throw you for a loop at first, as it did me. Redoing the UI can be a good thing if it makes things more efficient, but I'd say from my experience, the jury is still out on if this redesign accomplishes that. I think I'll just need more time with Duik. My biggest gripe with the new UI so far is that I wish there was a way to make these icons a little bit bigger. Right now I'm in rookie mode, which I had to switch to because in standard and expert mode, all these text labels underneath the icons are hidden in standard and expert mode, and so you have to rely on the icons, and these icons can sometimes not be super legible at this size. So I had to switch from standard to rookie. Okay, so the next big change is that what we've all come to lovingly know as structure layers are now called bones. This is a good call in my opinion because it aligns Duik with the industry standard. So structures are now a thing of the past, and what used to be called bones in Duik are now called pins. And speaking of bones, there are now a lot of updates to the available armatures. In Duik Basel, you could create arms and legs for things like dogs and horses, but now you have things like plantigrades, which I guess are like rabbits. You have spiders, birds, even fish. It's pretty wild. And there's also now what they call meta rigs, which are kind of like the full package. So in Duik Basel, you could create a full humanoid armature with the spine, the two legs, two arms. And then when you hit auto rig, it would rig everything up. Well, now you can do that for a variety of different kinds of rigs, like for animals. And they all work with the auto rig button. There is also a file format that is being developed called OCO, which stands for Open Cutout Format. I don't know much about how it is actually going to work because I guess it's still in development, but it sounds like it's a method to help create character designs in other programs like Photoshop or Illustrator that can then be used with these meta rigs. There are also a few new features when creating the armatures. Now when you click on a humanoid, you can select which armature to create. And if you hold shift and click on that, it will bring up this new menu. Now this menu was available in Duik Basel, but now it has these new additional tags that you can add to the name of the new bone layers. So if I know I'm going to be creating the left arm, I can change this tag to left. And now when I go to create my bones, every layer in my bone stack will be labeled with L. Now, when I create my bones, bones themselves have a bunch of new settings. First of all, you can now change the size and color of your bones. And then there's also these new attributes, bone envelopes and noodles. Bone envelopes are for referencing when creating the artwork for your characters. These guides help you make joints that fit perfectly together. I also think these bone envelopes might play into how the OCO format works I mentioned earlier. You can also come into the bone layer itself and you can customize the appearance of these bone envelopes just like a normal shape layer, and you can actually use them as your character art directly if you wanted to. Bone noodles, to be honest, I'm not quite yet sure what the practical use of these are for. Maybe you can use them to create a kind of rubber hose, bendy type limb. Now, when you have a lot of bones in your composition, it can be annoying and it can be time consuming to go in and turn on all the bone envelopes or the noodles one by one. Luckily, there are these new bone settings menu where you can modify the properties of all the selected bones at once. So if I want to turn on all the envelopes at once for this armature, I can just select all my bones and enable the bone envelopes. There is also a new way to place bones. You can now take your pen tool, draw out your limb with your 4 points for the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and the tip of the arm. Then with the path selected, just go over the Duik, select the armature you'd like to create, and it will create the bones at the exact point of your vertex points on that path. Also, there's improvements to the way that you parent up your art layers to the bone layers, and that is with this new auto link button. This auto link will look at the position of each art layer and the position of each bone layer, and it will link the art layer to the closest bone layer automatically. So no more going through and manually pick whipping your art layers to the corresponding bone layers. And I have to say, this has proven to be pretty seamless for me. Now, auto rig works like magic. No changes there, although they do claim that there is some performance improvements, although I didn't experience that personally. When it comes to rigged limbs, there are a few changes and new features. First, the direction that your limb bends and the switch from IK to FK are now on sliders instead of checkboxes, so you can gradually transition from one mode to the next. With that, there is also this auto swing feature, which allows you to set a point at which your limb's rotation or the direction it bends flips to the other side. Let's move on to some of the updates to the animation tools. The first thing I want to look at is the animation library. If you ever find that you're doing the same animation over and over, you can now save animations to the animation library. Here I have this animation of the circle bouncing, and I've done this animation a million times. Well, I can save it to my library, and then let's say a couple of days later, my client comes and wants me to have this square bouncing too. Instead of doing everything from scratch, I can go to my animation library, select that bounce animation I saved earlier in the week, and apply it to my square. Then I'll just grab the position keyframes and move my square over, and now my client has never been happier, and I'm happier because I don't have to go through the work of animating everything all over again. So obviously this is a really simple example, but you can see how something like this could be useful for character animations that you find yourself doing over and over and over again. Now, there are also a few new buttons here in the animation section, like this split keys. You can use this to split a selected keyframe into 2 identical keyframes. This can come in handy for just quickly creating a pause in your animation. There's also the freeze pose button here, which is very similar to split keys, except instead of splitting a selected keyframe in 2, it duplicates the last keyframe wherever your playhead is on your timeline. So if you want to create a pause in your animation for an extended period of time, you can use the freeze button, which will be slightly quicker than splitting the keyframe and then dragging the new keyframe over. There is also this snap tool, which will snap keyframes that have shifted in between frames to the closest frame. Keyframes will often go in between frames when you select a bunch of keyframes and hold Alt to either stretch or compress your series of keyframes to retime them. And today's video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online community with thousands of courses in design, business, technology, and much, much more. Whether you're looking to learn a new creative hobby, pick up a new piece of software, or advance your career, Skillshare has something for everyone. And speaking of careers, a couple of years ago, I realized I didn't want to work for anyone anymore. I wanted control over my own time, and I wanted to be my own boss. So I quit my job, I started this YouTube channel, and I began freelancing as a motion designer. Skillshare has been my secret weapon for navigating the twists and turns of being on my own. And one of the most anxiety-inducing twists that I've encountered along the way was figuring out how to price my work accurately. But thanks to this class from Jesse Ledoux, Pricing Your Work and Negotiating with Clients, I was quickly able to gain the confidence to successfully negotiate better rates with my clients. If you're interested in trying out Skillshare, I've included a link in the description to a 7-day free trial and 20% off your first year of membership. Okay, now let's get back to the video. And when this happens, a lot of these keyframes in between will get shifted on some odd intra frames. So this is just a quick way to fix that. Also, there is now a sequencer which you can use to offset layers by their in points or out points, or by just shifting the whole layer. You can also offset keyframes using the sequencers instead of the layers. And what's really interesting is you can change up the offset curve. So they have a bunch of different offset curve options, and this slider here determines how extreme this offset curve is applied to your layer sequence. Now, the most intriguing part of this new animation tools is the non-linear animation. Basically, you can set up a base comp or a neutral comp, then you can create new clips of different animations using your character or your shape layer, and then in a separate edit timeline, you can edit these different animations by just moving them around on your timeline, kind of like editing video clips in a non-linear editor, hence the name non-linear animation. So to explain what I mean, here I have made two clips in separate comps of this square rolling from one side to the next, and then in this other clip I have just animated the scale of the square. Back in this editing composition, I can simply retime these two animations by moving them around on my timeline. But here's where things get kind of wild. I can overlap these animations, and now I can make the square grow as it rotates, just by overlapping these two compositions. Hopefully you can already imagine how this might work with character animation. I can animate my character walking in a walk cycle, and then I could add a clip of them waving on top of that walk cycle. And now I have an animation of my character walking and waving at the same time. You can also use the opacity of these clips to animate them on and off. So that's just a basic rundown of the non-linear animation. Honestly, out of all the updates, I'm most interested to see how people use this non-linear animation. Now, let's finish this video up with some small updates to the tools menu. There is now this composition tab. Here you can crop your composition just by masking it and then using the crop button, and it will change the resolution of your composition, your pre-comp, to the dimensions of the mask. And that's a really intuitive way to just quickly crop a composition without having to go into the composition and change the resolution. You also have this comp settings, which you can change the settings of a bunch of selected comps. There's also this layer manager, and here you can create nulls, solids, or adjustment layers using shape layers instead of solids, so you no longer have to deal with a bloated solids folder in the project panel. And also in this section, we have some tools for renaming layers. One of the biggest hurdles to staying organized in After Effects, especially when creating a character rig with Duik with 60 plus layers, is keeping your layers all appropriately named. It can be an incredibly tedious task to go through each layer one by one and renaming it so that you can stay organized, and this section here helps you to rename bulk layers. So I can select multiple layers at a time, and I can add these little tags to the name of the layer, and I can even add a group name. So let's say, for example, I have 2 characters with all their artwork layers in one composition. Well, I can grab all the artwork layers for one character and add the group name to those layers. So maybe like character 1 or C1 for character 1, and then I could do the same thing for the other character, C2. And then of course I can add some other tags to the name to stay organized. All in all, this is a welcome tool because, like I said, the biggest hurdle to staying organized is just the tedious task of going in and labeling everything. Okay, so that is Duik Angela. Pretty cool update, I think, overall. I didn't go over all the changes, but I just kind of picked out what I thought was most intriguing to me as a character animator and what I thought you guys would be most interested in learning about and being introduced to. Again, it's brand new, so even some of this stuff I'm not quite familiar with, like the non-linear animation workflow. I got it to work a little bit, but it's gonna take some time to really see what you can do with it. So I'm excited to see what people do with these new features. Speaking of these new tools and features and everything, if there was one that I talked about today that you would like an in-depth tutorial on, let me know in the comment section below. And if there's enough interest in that topic, then I will definitely add that to the schedule of tutorials to come out on this YouTube channel. So again, thanks for watching. A quick reminder again, just once again, my course open enrollment is closing tomorrow, so go check that out. Link in the description. And again, if you're not interested in the course, I totally get it. It's fine. It may not be a fit for you, but just go watch the course video because, again, helps get in front of more people. But even more important than that, I spent a lot of time on that video. I just want people to see it. I spent a lot of time on those character animations, so I just want you to see it and just watch it and hit that like button. So yeah. Thanks for watching. If you found that this video was helpful, hit that like button again because it helps this video get seen by more people. And if you like this kind of content, make sure you're subscribed with that bell notification turned on. You know how to do YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.